Assalamu alaikum. Welcome, dear viewers. We are the Bayat al Ghadeer team, and we are at Hyde Park, a venue that we've frequented on numerous occasions. In fact, I think it was our meeting, our gathering a year ago, which kind of encouraged us to set up the channel due to the experiences that we had on that day. Now, let's correct a few things. There is an assumption that we somehow almost seem to have sleeping bags and live here. Anyone who attends seems to want to be wondering where we are. We aren't under any obligation to attend. We don't attend Hyde Parks because for every week we never have and never will. We attend when we feel like it. The fact of the matter is, we've got family, we've got other obligations, weekends as they are, we're busy, we're doing other things. Today is the day of Bayat, the 40th day following the Shahadat of Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wa salam. We've all gathered today, the brothers have got together, and we thought, well, here's an opportunity to do some filming and to have a discussion on a topic which is it's interesting. The topic of Tawheed. We have done a number of shows on that topic. We've discussed it here at Hyde Park. I know Brother Zain has. There have been some shows on the channel itself, and inshallah ta'ala there will be further shows on that topic. It is quite interesting that the dynamic duo have been trying to create this kind of unified approach of the Ahl-Sunnah wal Jama'ah against the Rafida, and the fact that we're all in it together, and it's them bad guys, them Shias, them lot, isn't it? That sort of attitude. And the fact of the matter is, A, you're not that united, and we'll deal with that later. But one of the things which I found interesting, certainly in one of the discussions that one of the Shaykhan did say, is say that the Shias are obsessed with secondary issues such as Tawheed, about where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, and it's been argued as a secondary issue. The basis on which one calls people to the religion of Islam is through the understanding of Tawheed. And you know something, people that I'm sure we're all in agreement with, one thing that we see here, those that are involved in Salafi dawah, is their invitation to come to Tawheed. To the people, we are the people of Tawheed. We are the Ahl-Sunnah wal Jama'ah, the Salafis, and we hold the correct opinion of what Tawheed is. And that's a very, very important issue to understand. If you want to understand the concept of religion, if you want to invite other people, particularly when you see Salafi dawah, the key thing that they'll do is they'll invite people to the belief in the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in all honesty, it's that which attracts people into the faith. So really, when they have this, they present something. I'll give you an example, right? I went to the market the other day, my local. All sorts of people are selling the same product, and they're shouting and screaming and trying to attract your attention. And it's the one that really kind of attracts you. When he's making that shout and screaming, you go towards him, and he tells you, listen, if you get this product, it's the real deal. If you invest in this, you get X, Y, Z. It's much better than what that guy's selling. And that's exactly what the Salafi they're great salesmen. And I think the pitch that they have is that of Tawheed. And the way that they sell it, say, we are the people that offer you the most perfect, the most pure
product.
But
in reality,
everything else that's on the market, whether it's other Muslim sects, or whether it's people of other denominations, they all offer you something which isn't correct because their concept of God is tainted.
Yeah, absolutely.
What we have is the pure product, the real deal. You sign up to our brand and you're in.
That's it.
So I thought today, me and Sayyid Ali thought, as we're here today on the channel, why don't we have a discussion on Tawheed? Because you know something? The version of Tawheed that they actually profess is very, very different to the version that they sell at Hyde Park Speaker's Corner in the general Salafi dawah. So we mentioned the other day, if you look at some of the late Ahmed Dida, and I have to say he's one of the people that was a great influence in my life.
I enjoy reading his books.
I reading his books. He's done wonderful work in his dawah. Some of the things that he would talk about, he would mock the Christian concept of Tawheed to try and to knock the wind out of its sails. He would be saying stuff like, this is what you believe. You believe that God is a man. You believe that God can ride on a chariot. I remember hearing
God
that.
sleeps.
God sleeps. He would be constantly mocking them for this concept of Tawheed and saying, what we've got is the correct version of Tawheed. You guys have got a joke version. And I have to say, when I was young and I'd hear that, and I would be really impressed and say, well, wow, Christian concept of Tawheed, I didn't understand that. But man, this guy's spot on, it doesn't make any sense to me. What you learn over time is the version of Tawheed that they actually profess. The version of Tawheed that they sell is the version which is much, much worse than the version that they're trying to mock others with. So that's why we thought today we will unzip what is the Salafi concept of Tawheed. We will have a discussion on it. We'll show you some of their main texts and you can decide for yourself, is this the version of Tawheed that you want to buy into? Because if you want to invest in something, sometimes you invest in like ISAs in this world and say, I'm going to get a good return. After 2 years, I'll get a good return for this product. You're investing in something in this world that you want the good return in the next one. And we'll appeal to the brothers and sisters who are watching. We're going to show you this so-called investment, the ISA that they're trying to sell you of Tawheed, and you can decide whether it's worth investing, whether it's going to benefit you in the next world. Sayyid, do you want to expand on that a bit?
No, I like your comparison you made about markets, and
Yeah.
You see different people trying to sell the best product.
Exactly.
Yeah, you can see you could have
It
two.
might even look the same.
It might look the same. You might have two guys selling two different types of apples. In reality, they're calling to better apples, but that apple is actually rotten.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a rotten apple.
Yeah, exactly.
But they don't tell you that.
Yeah, it's got flies on it.
It's got flies on it. It's past the sell-by date.
Exactly.
So today, what we're going to do, inshallah ta'ala, we're going to focus on a very interesting book, and that book has been attested by two notable Salafi scholars, Ibn Qayyim and Ibn Taymiyyah. As you know, they were the kind of pioneers of the whole Salafi ideology, and they promoted anthropomorphism, even though they claim that they're not anthropomorphic. And yes, we can go to the book. This book, what you want to?
Yep.
This book's called Al-Naqd al-Bishr al-Maraisi, and it's a rad of Jamia, meaning this book. This book was written in refutation to the Jahmiyyah. Okay, and among the greatest books ever written about the Sunnah, and the most beneficial, and it behoves every student of the Sunnah who desires to learn what the companions and the followers and the Imams used to believe, to read his two books. Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah used to recommend these two books in the extreme, and he used to extol it greatly. So as you can see, this book, it was it's a well-respected book.
Yep.
To the extent that it was praised by the likes of Ibn Taymiyyah and Ibn Qayyim al-Jawzi.
That's the certification stone.
And this is mentioned in his book Ijtima al-Joysh al-Islamiyya, page number 347, 348. I don't know if you want to elaborate further on that on this book.
I think to me that's sufficient. Really, there was a sect at the time called the Jahmiyyah, and basically these works were written as refutations to that. And the Jahmiyyah were individuals that did not believe that God has physical attributes. So they went out and set up a Salafi position, selling as a Sunni position at the time, saying actually God does have limits, he has physical attributes, and this book has got those texts which we will inshallah ta'ala read today.
Yeah, what we have to remember that Ash'ari at the time were not present, okay? The Jahmiyyah were the earlier group who kind of propagated that ideology where they rejected Sifat al-Khabariyya, I mean those reports which allude to an individual believing that God has physical limbs. So as we can see, this book has been attested by Ibn Qayyim al-Jawzi and Ibn Taymiyyah. So what we're going to do is we're going to quote some of the references in this book to prove that these individuals are anthropomorphic, and they do believe God has limitations, he's physical, he actually sits on the throne, and so forth.
The very things that Ahmad Didat would have been mocking non-Muslims over, Christian Muslim debates.
I mean, after today, I don't see how they could do any dawah to Christians, and even other people who believe that God has, he's a physical entity of some kind. Okay, bring it up.
Okay, I'm not sure. Okay, so sometimes I've had to read this a few times because it's hard to even understand how they get to this. But anyway, so Al-Darimi wrote, God's physical distance to his creation. It should be set to this objector. So don't forget, it's a refutation of the Jahmiyyah, who claim about which he has no knowledge. Who told you that the top of the mountain is not nearer to Allah than the bottom of it?
Wow.
Because those who believe that Allah is above his throne and above his skies know for certain that the top of the mountain is closer to the sky than the bottom of it. and that the seventh sky is closer to the throne of Allah than the sixth, and the sixth is closer to it than the fifth, and so on down to earth. Similarly, Ishaq bin Ibrahim al-Hanzali reported that Ibn al-Mubarak said, the top of the minaret is closer to Allah than the bottom of it. Ibn al-Mubarak said, he told the truth, for whatever is closer to the sky is closer to Allah. Notwithstanding, Allah is close to all His creation, the near, the far, and He's not far away from anything in His creation. Yet some of His creation is closer to Him than others, as we explained about the skies and the earth. Likewise with His angels, for the forbearers of the throne are closer to Him than all the other angels that are in the seventh sky, and the nearness of Allah to all of these the same. So this is from the same book, Allah, page 193.
So what do we conclude from that?
Subhanallah.
So what we ultimately conclude is that the tops of mosques, the tops of buildings, anything of high altitude is closer to God.
Yeah.
And obviously anything which is further down, well,
the higher up you are, the
more closer you are to God. So it kind of
Neil Armstrong was quite lucky.
Well, if you look at the world, let's look at the world as a ball, right?
Exactly.
If you look at the world as a ball, North Pole would technically be maybe the closest part to God, and
exactly.
South Pole wouldn't. I mean, it kind of supports that. It kind of
It's taller, so
I'm more closer to God.
Exactly.
Yeah? Even though God says in the Holy Quran that I'm more closer to the jugular vein, apparently the minarets are more closer to God.
Yeah, amazing. So that was one, and this is another one again. I had to read this 3 times. Am I hallucinating? No.
And by the way, we'll provide the scans in the video for the viewers, so you can always go back and verify.
So here we go. God has a location.
God has a location.
As for your statement that Allah has not described Himself with being in one location without another one, if you, O opponent, are from those who read the book of Allah and understand a little bit of Arabic, then you would have known that you're lying about Allah with your claim, because He has indeed described Himself with being in one location without another location, and in one place without another place. He mentioned that He's above the throne, and the throne is above the heavens, and the throne is above the heavens, and this is something that many of the women and children know, let alone men. So this is from the same book, Allah, page 167. So He is limited.
They got His limitations.
So he'll be in one place, but He can't be in another place at the same time.
Well,
that is. I mean, I don't know if you want to even expand on that. I mean, it is shocking. Let's talk a bit more about God's limits. The opponent also claimed that Allah does not possess a limit, ghaya, restriction, or nihaya, end. He said, and this is the basis upon which the Jami ibn Safwan built his misguidance and derived all of his errors. It has not reached us that anyone besides Jam in this world proceeded with it. Someone who was discussing with him said to him, I have come to know your intent, O non-Arab. You intend that Allah is nothing, because all of the creation have known that there is nothing that is called a thing, except it has a limit, a ghaya, a restriction, and a attribute, and that what is no limit, restriction, or attribute is nothingness. So that which is a thing must necessarily be described with attributes. Nothingness is described with no limit or restriction. Your statement, He has no limit, means He has nothing. He is nothing. Abu al-Darimi said, Allah Ta'ala has a limit that no one knows but Him, and it is not allowed for anyone to imagine a limit to His limit in Himself. However, He is to believe in the limit and relegate the knowledge of that to Allah. His place also has a limit, and He is upon His arsh above the 7 heavens. So these are 2 limits. Again from Al-Naq, page 76.
Wow.
So again, He's in one. You want me to do this one?
No, I can do this one. So, as you can see, they believe in a limitation of God. Okay, they believe that the higher you are, the more closer you are to Allah, and they also believe God has limits. He's limited. In other words, He cannot be in 2 different places at the same time. He can't be above the throne, and He can't be coming down to the lower heavens.
Yeah.
He has to be either one or the other. Okay.
So there's a time when He comes down from heaven and heaven's empty.
Exactly.
The Lord isn't there.
So we can move on to now the aspect of God.
Vacant place.
Yeah. So we can move on to the aspect of God moves and He sits and stands. So God moves, sits and stands. Kind of links onto the whole Ahmadi book, refutation of the Christians.
Yeah.
God coming on a chariot, etc.
Yeah, exactly. I remember that vividly myself. Mentioning that.
So he says, because the sustainer does as he wills, he moves as he wills, and he descends and he ascends and he as he wills, and he extends his hand as he wills, and he stands, sits as he wills. For the criterion that distinguishes the living from the dead is movement. Every living thing moves of necessity, and every dead thing does not move of necessity. So God moves, sits, stands, goes running, comes down every night.
Exactly.
He's located above the seven heavens. The higher you are, the more closer you are. Okay, this is a very interesting one. Okay, so we talk about the arsh of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah has an arsh, a throne. Obviously, we Muslims, we say the arsh refers to his authority, his power, etc. These people actually believe that God has a physical chair. He has a physical chair,
and he occupies it.
He occupies it and he sits on it. So this is from the same book, Al-Naqd al-Bishr al-Maraisi, page 158, and it says, narrated to us Abdullah ibn Raja from Israel, from Abi Ishaq from Abdullah ibn Khalifa, who said, a woman came and asked the Prophet ﷺ and said, ask Allah to let me enter paradise. So he praised Allah and said, verily, his chair can hold the skies and the earth, and verily he sits down on it, and there's no space left over it except a space of 4 fingers. And he extends his 4 fingers, and the chair makes a sound like that of a new saddle when someone sits on it with his weight. So when Allah sits down on his throne, there's a gap of 4 fingers, and it makes a noise, like a creaking noise, like how a rider sits on his saddle. So what does that tell you?
Amazing.
That tells you that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a physical entity who sits down on a physical chair, who leaves a gap of 4 fingers. And by the way, Ibn Taymiyyah, in some places, he rejected this. He actually said that we can't believe God has a gap of 4 fingers, because otherwise we'll have to believe that his arsh, his chair, is bigger than him. So what does he say? He says he must be equal to the chair. In other words, there is no gap between Allah and the chair. So what does that tell you about the chair? It tells you that the chair is on par with Allah, because anything equal to Allah is Allah himself. And why? And Allah he makes a noise when he sits down on the chair. He makes a noise.
It creaks.
Is that why he descends down to the lower heavens and he runs? Is it to lose weight?
Actually, they do say that he gains weight.
Oh, he gains weight.
There's a narration of that, isn't there?
There you go.
That might be when he sits down, maybe the creaking is explained.
Okay, so let's go to another tradition from the same book, Al-Naqd al-Bishr al-Maraisi, page number 310. And he says, the opponents also reported from Al-Shahabi, who said, Allah has filled the throne, and that throne makes a sound like the sound of a saddle when someone sits on it. Then he interpreted the statement of Al-Shahabi by saying that the throne was filled by the grace and the favor of Allah. It is said to this opponent, so basically they refute that this idea about God sitting on the chair and having this gap of 4 fingers, etc., etc. Al-Shahabi tried to interpret it in a different way. So obviously the individual who wrote this book rejected this, and he said, woe to you, if there's nothing on the throne in your claim other than the grace and favor and his command, then it's said that the throne is making a sound from the grace and favor. So he says that, how can he say that it's grace when Allah's throne actually makes a noise when he sits on this chair? It is as if the stones and the iron to you, so that the throne makes a sound because of their weight. Favors and traits and deeds which have no weight, and they're not bodies which could cause the throne to make a sound. Do you want to continue, Said?
Actually, you do this one. I'll record the next
Okay,
one.
so this is another tradition from the same book which Ibn Taymiyyah and Ibn Qayyim praised. And in this tradition, it demonstrates that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala physically touched Adam. It is said to this guy, Al-Maraisi, who is ignorant towards Allah and his signs, do you know anything that Allah has created, that he's delegated his creation to someone else? As he has created Adam with his 2 hands, without touch. If you know something, then name it. Otherwise, whoever claims that Allah has not created anything, neither small nor big, then he is disbelieved. Unless he has delegated the creation of things to his command. speech, and his will. And he took the creation of Adam in his own hands by touch. By touch. And he's not created anything which is soul and his own hands. Because of that, he's specialized him, i.e. Adam, and gave him superiority and mentioned him praise and so forth. He continues. So as you can see, they believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala physically touched Adam, and when Allah says he created Adam with his two hands, they take it to be literal, that he literally touched Adam to create him. And this is from the same book, Al-Naqd al-Bishr al-Maraisi, page number 79. Do you want to go to this tradition?
Well, this is a tradition that obviously I remember that there's always this mockery about God riding on a chariot. So listen to this one. God can sit on the back of a mosquito.
God can sit on the back of the mosquito.
Verily, Allah is greater than all things and bigger than all creations. And the throne is not carrying him by glory and strength, nor are the carriers of the throne carrying it by their strength. Nor could they bear his throne, but they are carried by it and his power. It has reached us that when they carried the throne and above it was Allah Almighty, in his glory and his splendor they became weak from carrying it, and they became lowly, and knelt down on their knees until they were taught to read, "There is no power nor might except with Allah." Then they bore it by the power of Allah and his will, and if it were not for that, the throne would not be able to bear him, nor the carriers, nor the heavens, nor the earth, nor those in them. Had he willed, he would have settled on the back of a mosquito.
So basically, so what he's trying to say is that, look, if Allah can give the throne the power to withstand his weight, which by the way he didn't succeed in that because it makes a noise.
Yeah. He could also
sit on the back of a mosquito and go for a ride.
So listen to this again. Had he willed, he would have settled on the back of a mosquito, so it would bear him by his power and the subtlety of his lordship. Thus what of the great throne that is bigger than the heavens and the earth? And how do you deny, O vain one, that his throne bears him, when the throne is bigger than the seven seas and the seven earths?
You know what, I tell you something interesting. When I attended Speaker's Corner before in the past, I always hear some individuals mocking the idea that God, Jesus, for example, Jesus, may peace and blessings be upon him, was in the womb of Mary, okay? So what they try to argue is that, so you're trying to say that Mary, may peace and blessings be upon her, held God in her womb. How is that possible? That must mean that Mary's also God. So hold on, you can condemn Christians for believing in that theory, when in reality you believe that the throne, let's make the throne to be the womb to some extent, that the throne held Allah.
Yeah, it contains him.
It contains him.
So, is that also deity?
If God can sit on the back of a mosquito and he can give that power to a mosquito, then why is it hard for you guys to accept the Christian theory that God can likewise give Mary the power to hold Jesus in her womb?
Yeah, and also the concept of the chair. The question is, the chair, is it created or is it uncreated? Just down.
That's something that you'll have to ask them.
If it's created, then...
That means that there was a point that God was standing up.
Yeah, exactly.
Without a chair.
He had a need for a chair.
He had a need for a chair.
And if it's not created, then it's not.
Yeah, exactly. Why would you have a need for it?
Well, maybe he got heavy and then he decided to, he got tired and he made a chair and he sat down, which made a noise.
These are the beliefs. These are the beliefs that the people of pure Tawheed, they're trying to sell it in the marketplace. This is what they actually believe. I think I was midway, sorry. And had the throne been in the heavens and the earth, they would have contained it, but it is above the seventh heaven. So how can you deny this when you claim that Allah is in the earth, in all its places, and yet the earth is less than the throne in greatness and vastness? So how is it that the earth bears him, according to your claim, but the throne which is greater and more vast than it does not? And it's also from Al-Marisi, page 173. So those are the 7 references we've quoted today.
And by the way, this book is literally filled with anthropomorphic beliefs that God is a physical entity, he's limited, he sits on a chair, which makes noise.
Absolutely.
What more can you say about how can these people call people towards a pure form of Tawheed when in reality it's just as corrupted as
those that you are inviting people away from?
Yeah.
I always say that, it's like I said, if you want to invest in something, you look for the best product. You don't go for a product that's tainted, which has got a risk. You wouldn't invest in something where all your money's going to go down the tube. We're talking about people investing in not this world, in the next world. So surely, we would urge people.
I think we'll wrap it up from here, guys.
But certainly we would say that, we want to make it clear that if you compare this version of Tawheed to that which is explained by Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salatu wasalam in the very first khutbah of Najib al-Balagha, you mentioned it. Or if you read Sheikh Saduq's book, Kitab al-Tawheed, you will see how different the Prophet, peace be upon him, and his family and the Imams who are the true inheritors of the knowledge of the Prophet have presented Tawheed
I think
in its correct and pure form. And inshallah
absolutely.
we will discuss that ourselves in future shows.
Absolutely. I think Brother Raza is going to have a series on the concept of Tawheed as well.
Yes.
And we're going to go into further detail with that series about these beliefs and opinions held by these individuals.
Yeah.
So once again, thank you very much for listening to us today. Assalamu alaikum.
Wonderful.